3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Get straight into it, mate. What's your 1%er?
Probably is in 1% to be better every day.
Yeah.
They're probably.
Yeah. I was going to say thanks for finishing Reese's question for it.
No, it's all right. It's probably one of those things that changes from day to day, like depending on how you're feeling. Things like exercise and stuff spring to mind, but the biggest thing that probably comes up as my 1% to be better every day is probably in my job I do and I interact a lot with people. It's probably to try and invest in those people and stuff and invest in the people around you as well and sort of build those close connections, but then keep on building on them because things like exercise and you say like exercise and get up and that's all very important, but I think things like investing in the people around you and making sure that you still have strong connections and sort of making sure that works both ways because I've found that to be 1% better each day, like you might be having a shit day, but then you'll still think, I've got to go, I've got like my wife, my child, and I've got people at school and things like that, football club, like you got to make sure that you're still turning up and trying to be the best version of you every day. So it's sort of fair to them. Like you don't want to be getting there one day and you got a fucking face on you like a bloody kicked in boot and you're miserable and or you get there the next day and you're up and about. I think it's about keeping it consistent and just to be 1% better each day. So make sure that you are consistent and you are there, for those people. And then you'll find that on your bad days, they can also sort of, because you built that relationship, they can sort of pick you up as well, which is good. So it's probably trying to stay as consistent as I can in probably the different things I do throughout my day in a typical day, and be consistent with the people around me and try not to let my mood fluctuate too much, even if I am feeling shit or I am feeling like a bit down or things aren't going my way, or just try not to let that reflect on you and take that out on everyone else as well. So, yeah.
That's a really good one, mate. And it's one that, to be honest, I don't think it's actually came up so far in 28 episodes that we've done is it's something that it is about you, but it's also about others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I just use the examples because probably through my involvement through, like I'm around a lot of people. So I think in a typical day, like school, and then you might go to football training and obviously you've still got family and stuff, but they're a bit more, I suppose, friends and family is a bit different because you can sort of let your guard down a bit and like sort of be a bit more flat around there because they understand. And the people at football and school and stuff do as well. But yeah, I think it's important that you try and be as consistent as what you can. And you'll often find that if you spend some time or show some interest in maybe some other people and sit down and chat to them, and then eventually you'll start to feel better about yourself as well. It's sort of like that, sort of like acts of and even acts of gratitude, like letting people know that you're thankful for what they've done for you. And, I know, thanks for that. Or I just want to let you know I appreciate what you do, or I appreciate you been having a crack at this. And then eventually it just sort of festers the positivity and then it helps to bring me up. Because I do have things like and what's sort of going on throughout that day.
Yeah, cool. Well, make sure you like and subscribe to our socials if you're enjoying what you're hearing. But a little bit about you, and then we'll go into a bit more of all the things you do, and also we'll deep dive into what you're saying.
Yeah, no worries. So obviously a school teacher, been at Ulverstone Secondary College now. It was Ulverstone High School when I started. 2017 I started there, so I've been there pretty much the whole way through. I also play football down there for the Ulverstone Football Club, but I'm typically an Ulverstone person. Like I'm one of those people who's sort of lived in Ulverstone my whole life. I'm probably I thought it was quite normal, but it's turned out to be quite unique when you see it from another point of view. Like I've sort of had the same group of friends since I was a young kid, so five or six. Like I look at all my closest best mates, and so like Michael Pass was a prime example. We just had his wedding, and all the 4 people in his wedding party, we've all been friends since grade 1. We've all been in each other's weddings as well. Things like that. So then started as a young bloke, just going down with, part of Dad was involved with the football club, and then you sort of go down there of a Saturday and follow them around, and then pretty much, whatever happens, and then you just work your way through school. You still have a close group of friends that you sort of get in with at the start, but then as you start to sort of you you build more of a network, that sort of friendship group grows. And I've also developed some really good friends throughout my early parts of my teenage years that have all remained good friends. And I've also probably since I went off to university, I had 4 years away living in Launceston. I managed to, and I joined a football club down there and played a bit of football down there. And I've still got people there that I keep in touch with, down there. So it's probably a case of lived in Ulverston, grew up in Ulverston, made my way through all the schooling system, went to Don College and then went to uni for 4 years and then come back and then taught at the school that I went to and in the community that I sort of live in, my family lives in and play sport in and things like that. So very much an Ulverston person.
I can see where your 1% comes from there too, because you've obviously had to, move locations and develop those new connections as you've moved. So investing that time and that effort into making sure you've got those connections is probably key to making sure that you stay in that positive mental headspace too.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Guy. Like that was something when I moved away to Launceston, it was a bit of an unknown because I made the decision I wanted to play a bit of sport up there, and I sort of got a part-time job. Didn't work very much, but sort of went there like a day a week. And then that was probably when my mental health took probably the biggest dip. At the start was when I was sort of in Lochie. I was sort of by myself. I'd have friends at uni and stuff, but they'd all sort of piss off back home on the Wednesday or Thursday. And I sort of find myself like actually pretty lonely up in Lochie from Thursday to probably to Sunday. And that's when I did that for 2 years. And I decided, this is pretty shit. I'm not really enjoying it that much. So I decided to went and played football at the Launceston Football Club, just sort of showed up one day and then managed to come in. It took me probably, I was quite nervous. I was quite anxious because I didn't really speak to anyone. I just turned up one day at training and said, I'm here to such and such. I'm here to looking for a game. And then I ended up to build those connections and relationships through like another outlet as well. And then you sort of be introduced to friends of their friends and you sort of get involved in another environment. And that probably helped me through as well and made me enjoy being up there a bit more. Otherwise, I probably would have just gone through, just sort of moped through and not enjoyed it and just been there because I had to and things like that. But I was sort of keen to push myself out and, get involved in something different. And that's where building those connections, like I said, really helped me through. And even when I had, some tough times, I was able to go to people that I'd built connections with and trusted at the football club, for example. And, it was really good. And they're still connections that I have today. Obviously, you move away, you don't see them all, but a couple of them come to my wedding and, things like that. So, it's still good to have those connections and,
Did you know it at the time that was the connections is what you needed and what helped? Or did you learn that like from reflection back now?
Nah, probably reflection now. I've always been someone, I just love being surrounded by people. I think the best thing you can give anyone is your time. I think you can give them advice and things like that, and that's really good. And you can provide, obviously you do try and be a role model and things where you can, and you try and be a good mate, a good husband. But the biggest thing it comes down to is I think when I'm going well at those things, if I'm there and present, that's when I feel like I'm going really well. Sometimes I'm at home and obviously I'm there, but my mind's somewhere. And I think that's important. And that's something I've probably latched onto because I developed that probably in Launceston when there was a couple of coaches and stuff I had and friends who they were very willing of their time to me, and they realised I might have been struggling a bit or things mightn't have been going my way, and then they were really giving of my time, and I really appreciated that and what they did for me and how that made me feel. So I think I've just probably tried to basically mirror that and mirror those relationships when I've come back, and even now when different people in a relationship.
That you're a teacher and knowing you from sort of within the community and working at Ulverston Secondary College for a bit there myself, how do you go about, or have you had this kind of conversation about the importance of community connection and your networks to the younger generation that are more inclined to connect through technology and things like that? How do you go about having this conversation, and what kind of response have you got from them?
Well, it's something I really stress in the students I teach, and I've sort of was lucky. I was very lucky. I got a great bunch of kids who I love, and I went through like grade 7 to 10 with them. So I was sort of still finding my feet as a teacher and stuff, and so I sort of grew as they grew, and then you develop good relationships with them and also their parents as well. You see them sort of go ups and downs and things, but the biggest thing I was trying to stress to them is just things like I just make sure that one, you're sort of happy, but you can't be happy all the time, and it's okay to feel like shit. Everyone feels like shit sometimes, or some people feel like it all the time. But the biggest thing I was stressing is basically make sure that we can identify the problem and don't feel bad about coming and asking for help, because like what may seem like a trivial problem to me or to you boys, because you've sort of lived a bit more of a life, to someone who's 15, 16, it may seem like the world. And I was trying to stress to them the fact that just because don't feel bad, like if it's a big problem to you, then that's basically a big problem. And just getting them to encourage them to come and speak to you and seek help. And then probably just as far as being members of the community, I think I try and instill on them it's important that you go out into the community, and it's important you become a more well-rounded person, and that begins by speaking to people. And even one of the simple things, like I always made a point and tried to get that to rub off on the students I taught, was because I was always taught, being an only child, I used to mix with adults a lot because, brothers or sisters, and I used to get dragged along. And one of the things that my dad always used to say was, make sure you always call people by their name and always address them and look at them when you speak to them. Don't have your head down and things like that. So, and always, make sure that when you greet people, you always greet everyone. You don't just go, oh, yeah, g'day Reece, and then don't speak to anyone else. You make sure that you speak to everyone. And that's probably something that I've, found within the community. And then getting able to then also work in a different environment like the football club where you have a lot of kids come through. Like a couple of boys in my class ended up playing senior football, so they ended up playing with me. So I started teaching in grade 7, and by the end of grade 10, they were playing in the same football team. And you have that, and you try and then foster that and get them into a good environment, provide good examples, and then hopefully they do be good members of the community.
How do you manage that relationship? I know that must be challenging.
Tough.
Like obviously, growing up with having working with young people and all the rest of it, and then having them sort of then start to become a part of your outside of work life, but also seeing you in an adult sort of setting, and not saying the footy club is a bad place or anything like that. That different sort of culture. How do you how do you manage that?
You're sort of going from an authority figure to a peer, aren't you? And that's a very different dynamic.
It is. Yeah. And I'm probably a bit more in the sense of, I don't know, it's probably right or wrong. The educators will probably say I'm sort of what you see is what you get. So I wouldn't change too much more from what you see at school and how I know I probably swear a bit often if we're just having banter with people, like I might, fucking do this or fucking just, but like I think overall consistently, I think I'll be pretty consistent the whole time. And that's probably one of the things I pride myself on is it doesn't matter who you are, or if you're a kid who's, 14, 15, wanting to come down to footy, or if you're the 70-year-old man down there having a beer of a Thursday night, I'll still speak to everybody. And I think, and I don't change. I don't change for who I speak to. I make sure if you walk in, and you see people, you always speak to people, and it gets a bit fucking tedious sometimes because you have an L-shaped bar and you got 8 people lined up. You can't just go, oh, g'day boys, you got to go and you fucking by the end of it you feel a bit stupid. But but I remember getting comments and stuff that Dad got comments when I was younger, and people said how impressive they were, and just being thoughtful pretty much. It's just basically who I am, but I wouldn't say I actually changed that much between football and school or anything else. I think I'm generally, pretty consistent.
Yeah. I know we've had a few people from the club on the show, and this season we are supporting the club a little bit with some stuff that Paskey is organising.
Oh, yeah.
But just to go into that, and probably just more so about the club culture. Mm-hmm. I know Wingy spoke about it, like Greg, and obviously Stewie spoke about it as well. Just that culture and that community that's built within a footy club, in particular the Ulverstone Football Club in our instance. I'm sure it's the same for a lot of other country clubs and local clubs. around the northwest coast of Tassie and abroad. But not just footy. What makes Ulverston? What makes Ulverston's club culture so good? And do you think that has actually rubbed off? And has that been part of your reason for your 1%er?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. I spoke about this a bit at the Beyond Blue dinner when I had to give a speech about mental health in the football club and its role in the community. And I think, and like, I don't live with my head in the sand. I know a lot of people, and they're probably not people involved with the club, a lot of people always bag most things. They'll bag, I don't know, basketball clubs or football clubs. Normally if they're an aggrieved person or whatever, they'll probably bag. But I think in general, the football club's a great place for people of all ages to come, and it's a great centre for the community. I know when I went to Greg's mum's funeral, he spoke about how that was such an integral part of her life and giving them purpose. But I've seen the footy club do lots of things. Like I've seen probably young boys and girls there who've suffered, basically tragic turns of events, and not to get too heavy, but you probably work out, things happen. And I've seen the footy club wrap their arms around these people and really, really support them. And they've also done that to me as well. I've also seen the footy club help old men get through. They've had their partners die, and sometimes all they do is they look forward to going to football of a Saturday, and they look forward to going and having a beer of a Thursday or a Friday night. And when you go in and talk to them, I think that's really good. And it isn't just a football club. Like we haven't had the best couple of years, but I think the actual culture and how things are, I think that's more important than you could measure it by premierships and things like that. But I'd probably measure the success of a football club and a sporting club probably by the impact that it has on the people in it and also members of the town, because there is a diverse range of I think my favourite part of football is after the game when you go in, you may have won or lost, depending on, often it's much better to win, but you can't win all the time. And you go into the club rooms and you see all the supporters and you have a beer and you say hello and you talk about things and you make sure that you make those people feel valued and make sure, because it's just as much their club as what it is ours. Like players, like Greg Wing said, players come and go.
Good footballer.
But it was sort of good fun, and it gives people an outlet, gives people that sort of what I was talking about before, connection. Some people, that's probably one of the most important things, and the best 2 days they'd have is footy club of a Saturday, and then they might go down there during the week and they get to meet up with people and things like that. I reckon it's really good, and it's really important to have the footy club. And I think it's something that's really starting to take shape within the community. Obviously, there's always going to be negative points, and you get negative people who probably come and be part of it, or you have negative things people talk about. But on the whole, I think you get that anywhere. But I think the people actually rolling up their sleeves and having a go, they're the ones that make the footy club, like your Greg Wings of the world and people like his mum and board members and your Jimmy Allens and people like that who've been there for years. I think.
And the club's really pushing that now with the Beyond Blue stuff as well, and keeping with the community and having that mental health focus surrounding it too, which is really good to see. I want to go into your 1% a little bit more though. So when you're having a bad day and you're being growled at because you didn't stack the dishwasher right on the way home and you've got to go to work in the morning, how do you straighten out before you get to work and you got the kids in 5 minutes from when you get home to there?
Well,
what do you do?
Sometimes I struggle. Like I think it's I think I'd be probably pretty naive to think that I can just don't worry about it. I'll just be happy and I meditate. I don't do anything like that. Some days I can have a shit day and I go in, I can actually say, I'm having a pretty shit day, like this happened. I'm lucky I've got his partner who's very laid back, probably too laid back. Like one day she'll probably just end up.
She won't listen.
Yeah, one day I'll probably just get up and she'll be gone. But there'll be no sort of warning, and always joke about that. But yeah, she's awesome. But even things like having a bad day, you often say, I'm always a big believer and always say to the kids, if you're angry, show you're angry. If you're happy, be happy. If you're sad, be sad and show you're sad. And because at the end of the day, I feel like it's more of it just feels like a release. I don't believe in keeping things bottled up. I don't believe then you carry it around with you for, for days and days and days. But I think it's important to say, this is pretty shit. or I have a good mate at work I work with, and he was in my office, and I'd say, "Oh, that was pretty fucked. Like, what's that?" And he goes, "Oh, just don't worry about it." And we have a bit of a talk about it, or you ring up your friend and have a chat about that, and then you sort of move on. But yeah, there's no real sort of secret. It's just about really some days will be shit, and you got to realise that, well, yeah, they are, and then hopefully you get up and the next one's a bit better, and then you just sort of keep investing in people, and then before you know it, you'll forget about your problem, and someone will come to you with something, and you'll end up, yeah. But always a big believer in if you're happy, show you're happy. If you're sad, show you're sad. If you're angry, show you're angry within reason. Like,
don't punch the wall.
Don't go fucking smashing things up. Things, but obviously But I think it's important to show your emotions as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If you don't have shit days, how do you know you have good days?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's like you said. If everyone in the world was like you say about, someone's really really fit, always say, well, you only think they're fit because you're comparing them to people who aren't. If everyone in the world was like that, you'd think they're normal. Like it's the same as a day. Like if you think, oh, geez, that's it. Like I don't think anyone can have good days all the time.
If you're fit now, people are just comparing me to the wrong people.
Like I said, you can compare you to someone who's running marathons and you think, oh, I've probably got a bit of work to do, but you could compare yourself to someone who's like, I don't know, fat as a house, but you think, hang on, I'm going all right. It's just one of those things, I think, that I don't think, well, I definitely think you can't be happy all the time. It's about probably addressing that, letting it out if you have to. And then I think the most important thing is, because I don't think resilience, they say resilience, I don't think it's about actually saying, oh, I don't get sad or I don't get that, I'm resilient. It's okay to be sad. Be sad for a bit, and then you control sort of what happens next. And I think
that's a real measure of resilience is how quickly you can bounce back or just recover from those differences in emotions, and how well you can regulate between being those states of extreme happiness, sadness, anger, and all the rest of it. I think that's a real good sign of resilience. Not that ability. Like I think we often mistake resilience or good mental health as being I'm fucking happy 24/7, like all the time.
Just copping ways and be like, yeah, this is
It's like, no.
Yeah, it's funny that like
it's not that.
Ben on our first episode spoke about like acknowledging it and naming it and knowing that that's how you feel. Like that's what we're talking about again.
Yeah, and I think that's
this is a gym all over again.
Yeah, and like I basically think that's like it's important. Like and like you said, Guy, like how do you know you have the best day ever if you don't have shit days and you don't think, oh well, geez, actually I am real happy because I was shit a couple of months ago but now look at me now. Like I think it's important. Like, to me, resilience is not sounds a bit cliche, but not giving up, whether it's footy, like you played a bad game or whatever, well, yeah, be shitty about it. Something doesn't go your way, and then it's probably not okay to say, people say, oh, well, you control your own. Well, sometimes you can't control your own. Things can't go your way all the time, and sometimes you will have some bad luck, whether it's in life or whatever. Like sometimes some things are out of your control, and probably yes, if they knock you down, then you've got to realise then what you do after that's probably the big thing. But certainly, I'm a big believer in, make people feel their emotions, and then you go from there pretty much.
Very good. Mate, I think that's a real good spot to finish her off for the day. So thank you very much for coming on and sharing that with everyone. And look, I really do encourage people to connect with someone in the community. I think people, by and large, as much as a lot of people love to tell you they fucking hate people and they like being a hermit, people are social creatures. And we've all heard the old sort of story of it takes a village to raise a child. I dare say it takes a community to raise a community. And I feel like the more you can be connected with community and with others, the better that your mental well-being will be. So whether or not that's a footy club or...
Yeah, and I think obviously, just open to having those connections. And don't get me wrong, I'm probably the worst at holding a grudge. Like if I think someone's a shit person or they've done something shit or I think they've got poor morals, then like I probably won't speak to them. For those reasons, but then I invest in those who I think are good people and they've got good morals and good values, and I can tell that they've been good to me and things like that. So that's probably the biggest thing. If you build those connections, you'll find that as life goes on, you won't lose those connections if they're solid, and you'll build more and more, and then you'll gradually open up this spacey web of people, and you'll end up being much happier. And then like I said, it can't be good all the time, but most of the time, hopefully it is.
Definitely. I think that's something that a lot of people can learn from. that's it from me, boys.
Yeah,
That's good.
Good one.
Real
No
good.
worries.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Look, if there's anything
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks, mate. If there's anything that was triggering out of this one, I doubt it. But if there was, please contact either Lifeline on 13 11 14, or at the very least, reach out to someone from your community or a mate. And that's it. Cheers, Lochie.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers.